Isagi Yoichi is an absolute gem in Japan. In Japan, people love how flashy he could be. His control over the football, his control over his dribbling, everybody thinks that it's ungodly. That it's insane that a mere mortal, someone like one of them, could even do the things that he can do. Isagi is seen as someone that has elite dribbling skills, and his shooting ability, he could shoot it around anybody and everybody. And it's just absolute. Everybody's absolutely impressed at what he's truly capable of. Everyone believes that he could be the future of Japan football. But this is a little bit different, or the process of this would be a little bit different than any of them would possibly imagine. Because Isagi, well, he wouldn't become the greatest football player for Japan through the normal means, the normal way. Well, he would be put in a far different position than anybody would possibly imagine. Isagi would play his nationals game, or the game before nationals, and it would be part of the tournament that he's currently in, and he's been dominant throughout. Isagi would change the field entirely with his passing, his dribbling, his scoring. Frankly, he doesn't pass that much, but that's more because he doesn't have players that are properly good. He believes that he can get more done if he just does it himself. So that's what he does. But when he's facing off against Kira, he even thinks to himself that if he has a player like Kira on his team, it would be pretty fun to pass to him. I mean, maybe they'll talk about that after the fact, but I mean, that's just a fever dream if they're really thinking about it. With that said, Isagi would go down the field and he would score goal after goal. And as he scores the final goal for them to secure the win, putting them up 3-1, Isagi would kick the ball and curve it in a way that nobody would even believe imaginable. Nobody would even believe that it's possible. But after he shoots that goal, he feels a bit of a pull, then a tear, and he can feel his leg is in pain. He's not sure what happened or what's going on, but it seems as if he pulled something, maybe destroying part of his hamstring, or maybe even something worse, maybe even tearing maybe his ACL or maybe tearing his Achilles. He's not 100% sure, but he felt something there. But he still scores, and he's still able to mildly run. But they would already have won the game, and everybody celebrates, and the adrenaline keeps him from completely, sitting down and having to just stop walking, running, or anything. He talks to Kira for a bit, but eventually would head home. And the next day he would go out and go with his family to the doctors, and he would soon be told that he actually is pretty hurt, and the recovery time of it is pretty long. And they're completely taken back by this. I mean, Isagi is frustrated by this, but he thinks to himself that, well, maybe this is for the best. Maybe this gives him some downtime. Maybe, just maybe, this will be a chance for him to just recover even greater. But thoughts begin to creep into his mind that everything's just falling apart. It's not a chance to get better. It's a chance to throw everything away. Isagi would eventually go back home once again, and what he would see is a letter from, well, one Jinpachi Ego. It's an invitation to a camp, and Isagi decides that, you know what, maybe he'll go there just to check out the competition. Maybe he'll go there to see what's going on. And when he would arrive, he would see that it's no ordinary camp. This is full of strikers. Even Kira is there. He would speak to Kira a little bit and even tell him about his injury. And Kira would ask why he came then. I mean, he should be out home resting. But he said he wanted to come here and check out the competition, see the people that were coming to this camp. And he always believes that you can watch people play and get better yourself. in which Kira thinks this is well true as well. But when they would arrive, Jinpachi Ito would explain that this is a chance for them to become the greatest striker for Japan, and this is the one and only Blue Lock. He's gonna hone them and create them, make them into the best striker possible. But eventually, after Kira would say his doubts about this place, would say his doubts about what the philosophies are, after that, Isagi would bring up the fact that he's hurt, that he's injured, and Jinpachi Ito would look at him and tell him that his injury is just a speck, just a small little error in what is capable of Blue Lock. So if he decides that he doesn't want to be in Blue Lock, I mean, he can do that and go recover, go try to find another way to get in. But he looks at Isagi and says that he also could choose to try to overcome a hurdle that even he thinks may be capable, or he may even be capable of doing. Isagi thinks to himself that yes, this is an opportunity for him to be the best striker in the world, but what this opportunity, it may also ruin him for the rest of his life. If he gets knocked out of Blue Lock, then he can never play for Japan's national team. But if he just recovers, he can go through the normal way of getting there. But Isagi thinks that this place is not only built to make the best striker, but it's built to make the best player out of you. So if he doesn't stay here, who says that he won't get lapped? Who says that he won't sit here and lose all hope at even having a chance at Japan's national team? He would think for a second, but then he would tell Jinpachi Ito that if they're funded so properly, then he wants the best equipment possible, the best equipment to put on his leg. And Jinpachi Ito would smirk and say that, how about this, they'll make a deal. If he gets by the first part of Blue Lock, the part that would be eventually conveyed to them, then he'll get him all the medical treatment, the best he could possibly think of, immediately. A medical treatment that would give him a brace that would feel as if it was making up for what he's lacking at this moment, and also allow him to heal to the best of his ability. And of course, after hearing this, Isagi would smirk and say that he can beat most of these kids with one leg. So imagine what he can do with some expert training and a proper brace. And everybody takes this as a challenge, thinking that he's just arrogant. But Jinpachi Ito would watch as Isagi would walk through, but he would walk through with a very, very small limp. It's as if the limp wasn't really there, but the determination was overclouding it. Isagi would walk in, get on his clothing, and walk into the room designated for Team Z. He would be ready to go and be waiting the first challenge that he needs to win. And when everybody arrives, everybody begins speaking about how Isagi shouldn't do this. This is a horrible idea, that he's literally making a huge mistake. If he injures himself more, what's going to happen? What is he going to do? What happens if he injures himself really badly? And Isagi would look at him and say that he's willing to risk it all. He's willing to risk it all for the sake of being the best in Japan. And he tells them that, like he said, his leg might be hurt, but luckily it's his non-dominant one, so he doesn't have to use it that much. In which they think that he's crazy. Does he really think that he can take on everybody with one leg? I mean, that's ridiculous. Isagi would tell them that if they're good enough, he'll set them up on passes that they wouldn't even believe. Passes that are insanely good, that they'll forget that he has one leg. In which they would all think that he's bluffing. There's just no way. This guy thinks he's that good. But Isagi believes that he is that good. He is that dude. In which eventually Jinpachi Ito would interrupt, telling them all that they're going to be doing something a little different. It's a game of tag, but with a football. The way it works is you have a limited amount of time, about 2 minutes and 16 seconds, to not be it. If you're it, you're out, and you're gone from Blue Lock forever. Isagi would see as the ball drops down and immediately would just get out of the way. But he could feel that, well, his leg and all of it is kind of going to more or less restrain him in a game like this. It seems like Ego knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what game was going to be first. He knew it was going to be this. And he's kind of frustrated by it because he knows that this is a massive disadvantage for him. But eventually he would get hit with the ball and he would have to think about what he's going to do. Many things go through Isagi's mind. Many. There's a guy laying on the ground he could totally hit, but that's not honorable. He looks toward other people until he remembers the message and what well, the one and only Kira was saying. He remembered Kira basically saying that all of this stuff about ego and about having this or that and basically team play. Isagi would kind of be annoyed by this, and he would kick the ball, but they would see that he completely whiffed. But only a couple of them know, only very few of them know what he's capable of. And it's even a mad oversight by Kira, because Kira thinks that he missed as well. Oh, maybe it's the fact that he's hurt. But one Bachira wakes up just slightly and he sees the ball curving and he smiles. This is a monster. He curves the ball in such a way that nobody even realizes it, but it slams into the side of his face, but it was shot from the front of him. This is absolutely insane, the torque that he was able to put on the ball, the turn, the spin, all of it, and everybody's extremely impressed. But of course, Isagi watches as Kira tries to gather himself and kick the ball back towards someone else, but he misses, and Jinpachi Ego would tell them that time is up. And Kira, he's out. Kira is out of there. Blue Lock has ended his chances at becoming the greatest striker in the world, and Isagi stands firmly in front of him. And Kira would tell him that he's going to get himself hurt. That whatever he's doing right now, I mean, he's going to fall so far short. That's because that's what's going to happen. That's what injury does. But Isagi would look at him one last time and say that the reason why Kira is gone is because that's what incompetence does. And Kira would walk out pissed out of all hell, and Jinpachi Ego would tell them that they did well, and that now they're going on to the very first selection. They need to whittle down one person, but now they're going to be doing something different. 11 on 11 with all strikers. Every last one of them being a striker, needing to work together in some way. Ego would then tell Isagi to meet him in a different room in a different building. And when he would arrive, Jinpachi Ego would give him a simple brace. He would tell him that this brace is good enough for him to use, at least for now. And it should kind of help him heal quite a bit, but he needs to know that there are always risks to what he's doing. This brace could eventually be a cripple for him, and this is currently not the best brace they can get for him. He tells him that eventually it will arrive. They have ordered it because a deal is a deal, and he doesn't go back on his deals. But the brace is something that may become a cripple to Isagi, something that he may need to overcome. But if Isagi's the player that he thinks he is, and if Isagi's the type of guy that he thinks he is, every single person in the entire world will want to fund to get him healed up, and will want to fund to get him to the proper position he believes he should be. In which Isagi would hear this and say, so he did a half lie. He gave him a brace, just not the one that would truly help him in the long run, and he thinks he still has to go through this with basically half a leg, at least on one side, in which Ego would shrug and say that if he's as good as he says he is, he'll be able to do it, right? He might not be as mobile as he once was, but he has teammates that are pretty mobile, that are pretty good. So let's see what he's truly made of. Let's see if Isagi Yoichi is really really the gem of this whole Japan. Let's see if Isagi Yoichi is truly the prodigy that Japan has been talking about this entire time. Isagi smirks and tells him that it seems like he did his homework, and if he knows him properly, then he should know that he doesn't give up that easily, and that he's going to make sure that even with one leg, he makes every last blue lock striker look like someone from the amateurs, look like someone that is just, going to your paid YMCA league. He says this, and he tells him that he'll show him exactly what he's capable of. And he'll be able to do that very, very soon, especially with the first game against Team X, against Shohei Bado. The king of this football field is going to take on Isagi Yoichi. Isagi is ready to take them on, but how is he going to defeat Team X with a hurt leg? Well, you'll have to find out in the very next part of What If Isagi Had a Telekinesis Weapon. The game against Team X is about to begin, and this game means so much to the future of what Isagi can do here. Of course, he knows what his strengths, his weaknesses, and how good he truly is, or at this moment he truly is, but with a mild injury and something mildly holding him back, he has to divert to a new way of playing the game of football, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He diverts to more of a passing ideology and also utilizing his telekinesis weapon to the best and to the biggest possible outcomes he possibly can, and that even includes playing defense. So once Team X and also Team Z begin to go at it, and everybody tries to steal the ball from everybody, more or less even trying to steal the ball from themselves or their same team, they would lose the ball, and Bado would go and try to get it, but just as he tries to, the ball would move just out of the swing of Bado's foot as Isagi would steal it from him. He would begin going down the field, but it's obvious that he's not super fast, but his footwork utilizing his telekinesis will allow him to get by defender after defender. And frankly, they're still kind of at least being a bit reckless at the moment, so it's not super difficult for him to get by certain defenders that are trying to guard him. But as he looks up, he sees the one and only Bachira going down the field. And as he sees Bachira going down the field, he sets him up for a beautiful pass, or with a beautiful pass, and a beautiful goal would ensue. Bachira would be excited to see the pass that was sent to him, and frankly, he can feel that there's a connection between him and Isagi in a long part. He believes that him and Isagi could have a crazy tandem here on out, and that would just be the fact, or that would be just the facts. At the end of the day, Isagi is prepared to get everybody involved, and immediately that would be the case, and that's what everybody would realize as he begins to absolutely cut through defenses with some of the most insane passing you would ever see. The king Bado wouldn't even be able to keep up, wouldn't even be able to get the ball himself. Unfortunately, he would fall behind relatively quickly, and Isagi would get everybody involved, Bachira, Kunigami, and many others that are currently on the field. Luckily enough, Isagi would even find goals himself. If he was a certain distance out, he would easily shoot the ball or basically kick the ball, and he would curve it in different directions, and immediately the goalie would just dive or crash and burn into a different direction and just lose sight of where the ball currently is. Eventually, it would lead to them being up 4-0 and would be up by a large margin. His team would easily beat Team X, especially with how uncoordinated they currently are, and this would bring everybody in Team Z actually at a point of believing that maybe they should trust Isagi, and maybe they should trust how good Isagi truly seems to be. It seems like his connection with everybody around is going to absolutely dominate the field, and that would be shown even past the game with Team X. It would even show in the next game against Team Y. Against Team Y, they are far more coordinated, and it all relies on two people, Okawa and Nico. But even with coordination, the overwhelming ability that Isagi has is absolutely going to outclass what they're capable of. Nico tries to basically avoid giving anybody the ball more and more and more. Nico trying to pass the ball around to his teammates and eventually setting up Okawa for a goal. But as Okawa basically receives a pass, the pass seems to be worse than you could possibly imagine, and a lot worse than Nico normally does. And that's because Isagi is manipulating the ball with telekinesis. He steals the ball himself and would pass the ball up toward Kunigami, who passes it to Bachira, in which he passes it back all the way across the field, once again for a following goal. And that goal would be easy peasy. It seems as if the goals were set up so quickly, but Okawa and Team Y would realize that if they can't set up a goal down the field, and quickly they would realize they can't, they would need to just stall out time so that they can somehow avoid a large margin in point deficit, in which that's exactly what they would try to do. Maybe they can score a goal right now and then just kind of play keep away and bait out a draw, which they try to set up Okawa once again, trying to avoid Isagi entirely. But still, once again, it seems like Nico's pass would flop, and everybody would think that Nico is just doing this himself. Maybe he's throwing on purpose, maybe he's throwing the game on purpose, and everybody would begin turning against him. But Nico says that that's just not the case. He's not actually trying to lose. He's not actually trying to throw the match. He doesn't know what's happening. Maybe the passes are just not as good. Maybe the passes are bad. He doesn't know, but he swore this is exactly how he did it before. He's not sure what's happening. Isagi would look at him, and for some reason Nico could get a sense that Isagi is the reason why it's happening this way. He would get a little smirk from Isagi, and quickly he would think to himself that Isagi must be the reason that this is happening. But how? How is he able to even make him do that? How is he even able to make, this happen in this capacity, in which this would confuse Nico to the core, but this would lead to the downfall of Team Y, and very quickly. Isagi's team would defeat them about 4-0, and they would head out once again to celebrate. But this celebration would be cut short by Isagi himself, as he would leave the room to check out film on the next game they'll be playing. But he sits there and he continues to rub his leg in hopes to make it feel somewhat better, because he can tell that the more and more he plays, the more and more it continues to hurt. Because he decided to take this risk, and this is a massive risk, but still, he feels that maybe it would have been better if he just banked on himself. Maybe it would have been better if he stayed out of Blue Lock and then hopefully made his advances later on. But he can tell that Blue Lock is a very intense training regimen, and he can tell that if he did decide to do that these other players that are currently here would become so much better than he could have been on his own. As he sits there though, someone would approach, and it would be Chiguri. Chiguri would ask what the hell, or what does he think he's doing there, that this is supposed to be his alone time. But Isagi would tell him that he's just watching film and thinking about what plan they should approach next in the next game. Chiguri would bring up the fact that he's played with the two Wanama twins from Team W, and that he knows exactly their playstyle, or at least to a certain extent. But Chiguri would ask more and more about why he's icing his leg, and Isagi would eventually reveal to him his injury and what he's been going through, and Chiguri could find some solace in the fact that Isagi is going through a similar thing. It might not be as bad, but Isagi is actually not healed. Chiguri is, and this would give Chiguri some small bit of motivation in the meantime, to feel as if maybe, just maybe, he should push himself to take on the Wanama twins once again and prove that he could truly become one of the best strikers here at Blue Lock. In which Isagi would honestly tell him that he should push himself, that he should bring himself to the next level, and he should honestly focus on being the greatest here. He tells Chiguri that there's a chance that he as himself won't be the greatest here, and that at the end of the day he might fall short because of this injury, but he wants to have no regrets. He wants to make sure that he doesn't regret not even a single thing he does here, and not a single thing that he'll do in the future. And when Chiguri would find that this is a pretty inspiring, and eventually would agree to trying in the next game, because after this game is won, let's just say they're guaranteed a spot in the next selection. So the next day and the next morning, they take on the Wanama Twins, or Team W. And when they take on Team W, there is a new fire lit underneath Chiguri, and this is something the Wanama Twins weren't ready for, because Isagi and Chiguri would begin linking up from long range, from insane range, something that they didn't even think would be possible. Chiguri would race down the field, and Chiguri would be the legs to Isagi's pass, and would be the speed to Isagi's strength, because Isagi would easily pass the ball down the field perfectly right into the lap of Chiguri at distances that other people can't reach, and at distances that only Chiguri can get to, and it would lead to Chiguri absolutely dismantling the Wanama Twins. Everybody could see in the face of Chiguri the happiness that he's going through, and everything that is culminating to this moment. He's showing the Wanama Twins that he's still the person he was back when he was so good before, and that their little mind tricks, they're not going to work on him. That this is a new Chiguri, and that he has a new partner. And Isagi would oblige this fully and wholeheartedly, because he knows what it looks like when people doubt other people, and he knows that other people have been doubted far more than what he's ever been doubted, and people have expectations for him. So when Chiguri is showing that he can shatter those expectations for himself, and he can shatter what everyone else believes, or at least what these other people believed at this moment, well, he was ready to show everyone what he was capable of. And that's what he was allowing Chiguri to do. And that's what he was allowing Chiguri, well, to more or less do to the largest extent, in which would lead to an amazing game by Chiguri, leading to an amazing game that looked as if he was completely outclassing the Wanama Twins altogether, and everybody in Team Z was happy to take a back seat for this moment, as Isagi would absolutely piece up and make sure that his passes would be amazing and beautiful, and obviously and just straight up stellar in the long run, using his telekinesis to defend the Wanama Twins, even though he has a messed up leg, even though he has this bit of a trump card on himself, more or less a restriction on himself. It seems as if Isagi refuses to be stopped. The motivation he's gotten from Chiguri, the motivation he has from everyone, this has made Team Z a force to be reckoned with, leading them to beating the Wanama Twins and guaranteeing their spot in the next selection. But the very next game, it's against a team that Isagi didn't really understand much about, because one day he would meet some of the players of Team V, and some of those players, well, weren't exactly the type of players Isagi believed to be around, or wanted to be around. One by the name of Sejuro Nagi would show him some things that he didn't want to hear. He would hear from Nagi that he didn't care about football necessarily, that he didn't really mind it. He would rather sleep, be lazy. He'd rather do this or that. He doesn't even want to be here. In which, after hearing this, Isagi would take this personally. A game that's not supposed to mean much, a game that isn't supposed to mean anything, Isagi takes it very personally. Against Nagi, Reo, and Zentetsu, Isagi wants to make sure that he can make a statement, and a statement is what he's going to make. When the game against Team V would begin, he would leave out all the stops. Beautiful pass to Gagamaru for the easiest goal of Gagamaru's life, and on top of that, Isagi would make it a point to guard Nagi. He says that he doesn't care about his injury. He doesn't care about the speed deficit, that to trust him, that he's going to lock him up so badly that he's going to wish he never came here for reasons, not that he's so good at the game, but for reasons that he's so embarrassed by the acts that he's already done. And he's going to be so embarrassed that he's so far behind someone with a messed up leg. And Isagi shows this throughout the game, locking down Nagi, showing exactly what the levels are compared to him versus Nagi himself, absolutely controlling where the ball is, controlling the pace of the game, and hitting Chigiri, Bachira, Gagamaru, Kunigami for the easiest goals that they've ever seen. And normally he would slow down toward the end of the game, but something within him wanted to run up the score so badly. He wanted to put fear into this team so badly after hearing all this stuff about not loving soccer or not loving football the way he does. They absolutely tear Team V apart. Reo sits there not understanding what he did wrong. He sits there realizing that having Nagi alone isn't good enough, not now and maybe not ever. And Nagi himself realizes that he needs to get better, that on top of that he needs to play with people that are better, that he needs to play with people like Isagi, Yoichi. Isagi stands tall, staring them all down as the game would come to an end, and he would tell them that they will never mock soccer or never mock football ever again. And on top of that, that they really should just take an early leave, because if he sees them in any capacity in the next selection, he will dominate and he will destroy them and send them packing forever. And they'll never be able to play football for Japan's national team ever. In hearing this, Nagi is brought to like kind of an inspired look. And on top of that, Nagi begins to think to himself that he needs to play with someone like him, like Isagi himself. But that idea and what may happen next is for the finale of what if Isagi had a telekinesis weapon. Isagi Yoichi is ready to take on what is next, and that is the one and only Blue Lock Man. Blue Lock Man is the first part of the second selection, but in terms of scoring goals, Isagi has never struggled with this in his life. At the end of the day, his telekinesis weapon allows him to be absolutely lethal and on every stretch of the imagination. If we're talking about, scoring goals, he'll easily be able to get the ball exactly where he wants it, and he can immediately and easily manipulate the ball throughout the air, showing the goalie or anybody, even if it is some sort of holographic machine, he can still show the goalie exactly what he wants them to see. He'll easily get the ball around Blue Lock Man, and quickly at that, and very, very quickly he would finish up everything he needed to finish up. As he walks through those doors though, Isagi, he sees that there's really nobody here, nobody at all. People begin to walk in, but he doesn't see anybody that's on his own team, but eventually he would. Seeing that of Bachira and a couple others walking through as well, and he would also see Nagi. He would actually see him, but he wouldn't really pay much attention to Nagi. He doesn't really like Nagi at the end of the day, and frankly he believes that he kind of takes this stuff for his, or takes this whole Blue Lock thing for granted, and he believes that Nagi doesn't really deserve to even be here, that he should just leave. And he said this before, but what would shock him a lot is that Nagi would eventually walk up to him and ask him if he can join Isagi. This would 100% was kind of this 100% confused Isagi. I mean, he's like, why would you want to join? I mean, like, at the end of the day, we're not friends. Like, we're not good. Like, we're not good at all. So why would you want to join? And of course, he would bring up, Nagi would bring up the fact that, he wants to join because he wants to actually work with Isagi. He wants to work with him, and he wants to also just kind of get better around him. He feels that playing with Isagi could be an amazing experience, an experience that he wouldn't be able to get with anybody else. Ryo would say that he would have to join their team, but Isagi would say no, that he's not going to join their team, that if Nagi wants to play with him that badly, he's going to have to join, well, his team. In which Nagi would eventually agree to this, surprising Ryo dramatically, because Ryo wasn't thinking that he would just leave him like that, just leave him in an instant. I mean, why would he? But he did. He tells Ryo that he needs to find what's going to happen next for him. He needs to find what he's truly capable of, and this is the way to do it. This is how he's going to find out. This is how he's going to find out exactly what he is as a football player and what football player means, or what football means to him. And that's exactly what he wants to do, and that's what he's going to do. And obviously Ryo can't stop Nagi from doing it, so he walks away. And they the three of them, Bachira, Nagi, and Isagi, would walk through the doors ready to go. And as they walk on the other side of that door, they would see their first challenge. And their first challenge would be against the one and only Atoshi Rin. Rin would be absolutely intimidating. At the end of the day, Rin is a hell of an athlete, hell of a player, and a hell of just overall a person that plays this game of football. And he has the lineage as well, being that his brother is insanely good at football as well. But there is no backing down. Isagi's not going to back down, and frankly, Bachira isn't either, and nor is Nagi. So they take them on. It's frankly them taking on three of the top players that are in this place or in Blue Lock. And it might be a little intimidating, but there is no intimidation factor that Isagi will let kind of squander this chance at taking on some of the best players here. He's going to make sure that he takes them on, and he's going to take this very, very seriously. I mean, there was no world he wasn't going to take it seriously, but he wants to make that clear that he's taking them on with his full arsenal. So when that game would start, Isagi would not necessarily hog the ball or kind of like, keep the ball on his own or kind of ball hog. It's not that necessarily he's ball hogging, but it's more that he's kind of controlling the pace of everything. And quickly, his telekinesis weapon, it would make it pretty obvious that he's kind of just outclassing them entirely. He's able to move, separate himself, dribble, and all of the above at insane rates and absolutely dismantle this team. And Rin, he's able to keep up to a certain extent, but there's an otherworldly kind of sense that is going on, an otherworldly being that's happening that Isagi is using. Isagi is literally using, well, like I said, telekinesis. And the fact is, it's not anything to bat your eye at, and it's almost impossible for anybody to stop this. And at the end of the day, Isagi would absolutely dismantle this so-called number one team, this team full of the first, second, and third place people. He would dismantle them entirely, in which this would put Rin on notice. I mean, he might have got his goal, a goal here and there, but he's standing there thinking that this guy, Isagi, how was he able to do the things he's doing? How was he able to put all of this into action? How was he able to come up with such strong ways of manipulating the field and frankly dominating the field? How was he able to do that? In which at the end of the game, Isagi would kind of score that last goal, and Rin would watch it as it curves so unnaturally, and Rin would think that maybe Isagi is just a freak. Maybe he's just a freak of nature that nobody can stop. But that's the one time that Rin is truly and utterly kind of backpedaling on himself wondering maybe there's nothing for him to do to catch up with someone like that. It just feels unnatural to what he's doing, unnatural at the power and strength and everything that he's manipulating. But at the end of the game, Rin would eventually join their team, obviously. I mean, he is the best, no doubt about it. But come on, even so, he questions Isagi. Even while Isagi's kind of working out with him, training with him, he would question Isagi. Why does he need to work out and train with him when he's leaps better at the moment? And frankly, there's a big difference between him and Isagi, which Isagi says that he still needs to work hard, that he needs to get better and needs to be able to kind of transcend whatever he's capable of right now into another realm that he's been looking for, in which it's kind of hard to even understand, especially with how detrimental it feels even playing with Isagi. Because even Nagi and Bachara, they have success with Isagi, but it's not to the degree that they would have necessarily success with somebody else. Isagi was very team orientated when he was playing with Team Z, but with a shorter field and also with less people on that field, let's just say that dominating this field is far easier than it would have been before, and that's what's showing right now. He continues, and they continue to kind of fight back and forth, and Isagi shows the skills that he's capable of, and even during their training, because obviously when they get to the next part, it's going to take a while for the next teams to even approach, excuse me, for the next teams to basically approach, and they train together, and Rin finds that Isagi isn't necessarily technically good. Like, his technicality with the game isn't even that good, but I mean, he's so much better though than everyone else for some reason. And it just, like he says, it feels like it's completely out of his power, as if it's not human, or it's not human-like the way he plays. After some time training and waiting, eventually their chance to take on the next group would come. And it would be a team of Aru, Tokimitsu, Reo, and also someone like Chiguri. And frankly, that team is a pretty dynamic one. I mean, really dynamic one. Reo being the lead in terms of passing and manipulating the ball where he wants it to be. But Isagi, his development, and with Ren by his side, they both realize that them as a duo is unstoppable. Rin reads the field as Isagi manipulates it. It's as if there are millions of pathways that are opening up right when Isagi just touches the ball. He touches the ball and everything changes. It's like a wide open window, and Rin can see all of it. There is nothing Rin can miss now. He sees every last thing. It's insane. It's mind-blowing, but it's the truth. Isagi, well, has created something incredibly amazing, and frankly, there is no stopping him. Not unless you have experience that would be beyond the years that anybody at Blue Lock would have. And that experience would be shown when they take on the World 5. Isagi would take on the World 5 with his team, now having a team of Chiguri added to it. But guess what? The World 5, they may think that Isagi's good. They may think that he's impressive. But it doesn't matter, because the World 5 has just too much experience, too much speed, too much control, too much power, too much strength. At the end of the day, they are playing against little kids. The World 5 are grown-ass men, and they dominate. Isagi might show some things in terms of his telekinesis, being able to score and set up goals. They might even score maybe 2 goals, maybe 3. But the game never felt like it was theirs to win. The trash talk that Rin said before the game would fly back in his face, smacking him graciously. But At the end of the day, Ego would be watching, and he saw what he needed to see. And frankly, he's seen what type of player Isagi is and how he could truly benefit them coming up very soon. Because once they all walk through those doors, they all walk there and stand staring at Jinpachi Ego, and Ego begins to explain to them exactly the fate of Blue Lock and what is to come next. Well, they all stand there determined and ready. Players that Isagi has never seen, and many that he has, many that he's played with and played against, they're all going to team up to take on Japan's one and only U20 team. And frankly, Blue Lock is doing this for their own survival. Can they take them on? Can they take them down? And how will Isagi will change the field forever? Well, that's a story for another day. But if you enjoyed this one, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.